there were more soldiers protecting Pride than there were people in Pride. So if there are any Israel supporters in the crowd, or if they can hear me in Israel, if you need that many soldiers to protect your Pride parade, you have a homophobia problem. Okay? You do. Like, I'm not, it was out of control. Anyway, so we get to the end in Independence Park, and I speak Hebrew, so I got to hear these wonderful speeches. And the theme of Pride Jerusalem was, you know, Jerusalem, a city for all, a city for everyone, diversity in Jerusalem, welcome to Jerusalem. And obviously it's a message to homophobic Jewish Israelis, hey, I have a right to be a Jewish Israeli queer here. It's an occupied city, a city that most Palestinians don't have access to, a city that 2 days earlier I was talking to kids in Nablus about that they've never been to go and pray in that city. So I'm not saying that gay and lesbian and queer Israelis shouldn't fight for their own rights, shouldn't have their own pride parades, but what I'm saying to them is, if it's not rights extended to everyone, true equality doesn't exist. You can't have equality and full gay rights when apartheid still exists. So now we're going to get to the really, like, the big point in their logic. Okay, so we've got Palestine is homophobic, Israel's a gay safe haven of democracy and rainbows. So queers worldwide must support gay positive Israel and not homophobic Palestine. And intuitively, we get that this is wrong. We know that it's ridiculous that they assume that we should hate Palestinians and agree that they should have no human rights simply because there is homophobia in Palestine. Israel, like all Western imperial powers, have co-opted the language of feminist and queer rights. And they do it to excuse all the bad things that they're doing. So to explain how this works, let's look at Canada. This is a territory that we're on. So we have the real Canada, right? And in the real Canada, there are over 500 murdered or missing Aboriginal women that the state and the police are simply not looking for. There are thousands of people, predominantly women, who are living in poverty across this country. That's shameful too, you can shame that one. We have a Minister of Citizenship and Immigration. No, I gotta tell you what he's doing, okay? So he's appointing homophobes to the Immigrant and Refugee Board. He's telling gays they can get married, just not to someone of the same sex. He did say that. He did, I swear. And most recently, he's trying to write queers completely out of what he calls Canadian history. In this province, recently, we had, you know, two lesbian women going to pick up their kids from school in Oshawa and getting the crap beat out of them, right? So that's the real Canada. But somehow, we also have the mythical Canada, the tolerant, kinder, gentler, Olympics cuddly Canada, where we're a gay rights leader. We're the liberator of Afghani women. We're the Canada where at the upcoming G8, G20, which is happening in Toronto, Stephen Harper has set his agenda to push for maternal health and women's issues. Stephen Harper, maternal health, women's issues. But it's actually, we can laugh about it, but it's really quite brilliant. What they're doing is they're committing massive human rights violations, but trumpeting the human rights they do offer in order to cover up their crimes. And then they can claim that they, unlike non-Western states, respect women and queers and are therefore civilized, democratic countries. So this is how you demonize non-Western states as intolerant and then justify military occupations to bring tolerance to the intolerant. So in Israel's case, they can claim to be democratic, civilized, tolerant, sexy, because unlike the sexist, homophobic Arabs, their enemy, they are the enlightened West. They care about women's rights and defend the rights of gays and lesbians. And so an example of how this works can be seen at the Pride Parade, in the army, where the Israelis talk about how they allow women and queer people to serve in the military. And they use this when they're justifying that they're the most moral army in the world. And this, of course, ignores that this open and welcoming army commits war crimes against Palestinians, including women and queer people. There are queer people under siege in Gaza. There are queer people who died in Gaza, just along with straight people. So there are no gay-friendly bombs. There are no gay-friendly checkpoints. There's no gay-friendly apartheid. And so if we want to challenge Israeli apartheid as queer people, if we don't do this, we allow the Israeli state to continue to propagate the myth that it is a tolerant, civilized democracy, even as it continues to commit war crimes and repeatedly violates international law. But when queer people visibly stand up against Israeli apartheid, we totally mess not just with their PR campaigns, but with the very myth-making that is vital to letting them get away with apartheid. And that's why this event, that's why Kwaya is driving them crazy. So I'm almost out of time. I've been given the time wrapping up, so I'm getting to it, I swear. And I want to end by talking about pride and queer struggles. And so one of the pro-Israel lines that came out during Pride last year, and we're going to start hearing again, is that Kwaya marching in the parade is politicizing pride. Sponsors would be lost. The whole meaning of pride would be lost to politics. And so it's annoying that straight, largely homophobic Zionists are trying to tell us what pride is supposed to be about. But here I kind of agree with them. Pride has, in many ways, become a big party, and it's up to people like us, people like Kwaya, to get to a return to good old-fashioned radical queer politics. At a time where the Canadian military, the cops, all political parties, and tons of major corporations march in pride, we need groups like Kwaya. We need radical queer anti-racist, queer anti-capitalist, and queer anti-imperialists to make pride political again. So humor me for a second, I swear I am wrapping this up. How amazing would it be if Pride actually lost its corporate sponsorships? How empowering would it be for queer radicals to take to the streets instead of drinking overpriced bottles of Molson Canadian, sitting in a beer garden that's usually a park that's been cleansed of homeless people so we can have a week of partying? What if queers refuse to buy into the Canadian nationalism that tells us how great this country is because we have gay marriage? What if instead we demand to know why our country is involved in imperialist wars worldwide? Wars on poor people, sex workers, migrants, and First Nations people here at home? What if we stay mad at Jason Kenney for not including gay rights and required reading for new immigrants, but become more angry about his other racist stuff and the fact that there's a citizenship test to begin with? And what if we recognize that we have won rights through struggle and we honor those who have fought, but at the same time, critically look at how we may, just may, have been given some of these rights because the powers that be know there's money to be made off of us. So what if we refuse to be a niche market, walking homo dollar bills, and instead spend our time, energy, and resources to stand up against homophobia, racism, capitalism, and apartheid? So when that happens, I will be one proud queer. So I'm asking everybody here to get involved, join Kwaya, join the BDS movement, come out for Pride 2010, and make the anti-apartheid contingent bigger, badder, and louder than ever before. Thanks.